Hi 4K. Today for our read aloud time, I'm going to share a very special story with you called The Legend of Spookley the Square Pumpkin. This is one of my absolute favorite children's books. Spookley the Square Pumpkin was very different. All the other pumpkins teased him until Spookley proved that being different can save the day. Let's take a listen. One day in the pumpkin patch, the strangest little pumpkin hatched. Spookley wasn't like his friends. Where they had curves, he had ends. Spookley was different. He was odd, he was rare. Spookley the pumpkin wasn't round. He was square. Now, our shape last week was a square, and we learned that squares could not roll. That's important to know when it comes to Spookley. While the round pumpkins had fun rolling along, poor Spookley sat there, shaped all wrong. He tried and tried with all his might, but he couldn't budge. He just sat tight. The other pumpkins teased him because he was square. Spookley wished he was round and could roll everywhere. That is, until one night when they all discovered it's fine to be round when the weather is fair, but there are times it's better to be a square. Halloween was just a day away when a mighty storm blew across the bay. It tossed the round pumpkins to and fro. It snapped their vines, then off they'd go. Bouncing left, slamming right, banging, bashing, what a sight! Spookley sat there filled with fright, but glad to be a square that night. He is so happy to be a square. While all of the other pumpkins were getting blown around and rolling around the pumpkin patch, Spookley stayed in one place. He couldn't move because he was a square. His corners kept him from rolling like the other pumpkins did. Suddenly, the fence gave way. 3 pumpkins rolled out and into the bay. Oh no, look at all those pumpkins going down the hill. Spookley knew what must be done. It was up to him. He was the one. He teetered, he tottered, he tipped, he tried, and finally flipped. He was on his side. Again he tipped, again he flopped, and then he flipped. And then he stopped. Right in the gap where the fence had snapped, he blocked the way. The hole was capped. All the pumpkins shouted, "Hooray!" Spookley the square pumpkin had saved the day. Then a pumpkin hit him with a whack. He thought his shell would start to crack. Then another one hit him with a thump, and another one with a smack. There he is, plugging up that hole so no more pumpkins can go down into the water. Then one by one, a ton of pumpkins piled on the stack with a bang and a bash and a crunch and a crash, and then it all went black. Look at Spookley way down here with all of those pumpkins piled on top of him. At dawn, when the storm had stopped, the farmer came out and checked his crop. He picked his pumpkins up one by one and laid them out in the warm, dry sun. And when the last was moved away, the farmer could see what had saved the day. An odd-shaped pumpkin, short and dense, was wedged against the broken fence. Its shell was bruised, its stem was too, but there was brave little Spookley, sitting straight and strong and true. Right then and there the farmer knew, of all the seeds he'd ever sown, Spookley's were the most special that he had ever grown. And the next year, when it was time to sow, he sowed those seeds in every row. He watered and weeded and watched them grow. And oh, that morning about mid-June, when the pumpkin patch began to bloom, there were tiny pumpkins everywhere, hundreds and hundreds, most of them square. Look at that. Look at all those square pumpkins. Some were cubes and some rectangular. Some were flat and others triangular. There was a bed of bright red ones and 2 rows of blue. There were polka dot pumpkins and rainbow ones too. There were thousands of colors and hundreds of shapes. Oh, what a garden variety makes. Look at how beautiful. Now, every year on Halloween, Spookley's patch is quite a scene. People come from far and near to see what wonders grew that year. They stop, they gawk, they gaze, they stare. Then they pick a pumpkin that's round, triangular, or perfectly square. Now you know the story of how Spookley grew. Maybe someday you'll tell someone too, and they'll go tell someone who'll go tell another. And maybe one day we all will discover you can't judge a book or a pumpkin by its cover. The end. Now, let's talk about this for a minute. Spookley was a very, very different pumpkin, wasn't he? He was not shaped like all of the other pumpkins. He was square when all of the other pumpkins were round. All of the other pumpkins were exactly the same. They were all round in shape. In the beginning of the story, all of those pumpkins teased Spookley because he was different. They didn't think that he was as good as they were because they were round. But in that story, what's so special about it and what's so special about Spookley is he was the one that saved the day. The pumpkin that they didn't think was worth very much was the one that was able to save all of them. So one thing I want you to know from this story is just because somebody is different than you doesn't make them any less special. They are just as special as you are. So it's important to be kind to everyone, even if they look different, if they act different, if they sound different. Everybody has something special that they can bring to this world. So remember not to judge anyone by how they look or how they sound or how they act, because everyone is special and unique. Remember that always. And I hope you enjoyed the story, The Legend of Spookley the Square Pumpkin. Bye-bye.